Hello and welcome to the series of Aquarius training videos. In this video, we'll give you a very quick overview of the Aquarius Springboard user interface, which is probably the primary user interface you'll be using to work with Aquarius. I won't be going into too much depth. This is just an overview to get you started with the system. So, Aquarius Springboard runs inside a web browser, and you go to your web browser of choice and navigate to the Aquarius login page on your server, and you log in with a username that you've been supplied. I have the username Bob and a super secret password. And when I log into Springboard, the first thing I see is what we call the location view. Now, locations are sites or stations or whatever word you use for this concept. It's a place where you're gathering data and you want to group them together under one specific place. So here you can see we've got many locations in the system. Each one has a name and an identifier and so on. And the basic view in Springboard is that you choose a location you'd like to see the data of. You choose the Go to Datasets tool up here in the toolbar, or you can right-click and choose Go to Datasets, or in fact you can just double-click. They all do the same thing. They all take you to the Datasets view, which is showing you the data that you have for this particular location, Buckshot Creek. You can see we've got some field visit data, we have some discharge data, we've got some stage data, we've got several rating curves which are calculating things for us, and so on. And what these all mean we can go into in future videos. To go back to the locations view, we choose the back button. Now, if we choose more than one location, using the control key to multi-select, then when we go to the datasets view, we will be seeing the data from both of those locations. And this is useful for doing cross-location analysis of various kinds. Back to likes. Okay. Now, the list of locations that you see in this view is limited by your user. You may have permissions to see lots of sites. You may have permission to see very few. In this case, Bob has no permission to see inside this folder called the islands. So if I go to the islands, you'll see there's no locations visible here. Now another user, Alice, will be able to see what's in here. And the system administrator sets up who can see what. But which brings us to this left-hand view, which is folders. What you'll see on your system will certainly be different than what I have here. These are folders that have been set up to contain locations, and they work very much like a disk system or folders on disk. You can group locations into these folders, and it makes for a quick way to navigate through and find locations. If I click on location, if I click on a parent folder, I see all the locations in all the children. So I can always quickly go to the parent and see everything that's inside them. And you'll see this far column here says what folder the location is actually in. Now, the columns here in location view, again, may vary on your system. The system administrator can set up exactly what columns are visible and what they're called. So you may not see the state folder, for example. But you can use the columns in the ways that you'd expect to find locations. So first of all, you can sort by just clicking on a column header. You can filter a particular column by clicking this little arrow here. And this lets you choose locations which match a certain filter. I'm looking for locations which match Vic. And there is my Victoria station. And I can unfilter clicking here by clearing the filter. And another very, very cool way to do this is to take a column and drag it into the grouping area at the top here. And what that does is it sets up little groups down the left-hand side of your view that group by this thing. So this tool here expands and collapses them all. If I collapse them, it becomes clear how this works. You can see that they're now grouped by state. The first one is the locations that have no state, and then there's the states, sites with Arizona, California, and so on. I can even group by multiple columns by dragging another one in here. So I could group by state and folder. And now you'll see it becomes easier if I collapse them all. Now you'll see that within Arizona, we can see the folders that they're in, and then finally we can see the locations at the bottom level. And the view works just the same. I can go into datasets view and so on. Another great way to navigate through the UI and find locations is to create a favorite group. So any user can do this. You go into My Favorites, you right-click and choose New Folder and call it whatever you want for the demo, for example. And then I can take any locations which I like or whatever, and I can drag them into that group. This is just like a photo album or a playlist. We haven't moved the location anywhere, but we've just made this folder have a reference to that location. So I can throw as many in here as I like, and I'm starting to build up my own little group of locations. Now, what are we actually going to use this user interface for? So once we've found our locations that we want to work in, and actually, you know what? I don't like these ones. Let's remove it from there. And find another one. So let's find my Victoria station, because that was the one I liked. Victoria, let's put that in there. Okay. Now my Victoria station is the one I have some data I want to look at. I would go to Datasets. Now that's when these tools become interesting. So the tools across the top, the first group of 3 are tools which work at the location level. In other words, they work on the location itself. There's the location manager. There's a field visit to this location, and there is appending data to this location. The next set of tools, the next 3, work on data sets. So if I choose a data set, then you'll see they become enabled. I can view the data in this data set, correct the data in this data set, work on a rating curve if that were selected. Quickly view the data, for example. And here you can see a quick view of the data. We won't go into this tool now. That's saved for a future video. And the last tool is the reporting tool for getting data out in PDF or HTML or whatever format you like. And lastly, in the Springboard user interface are the tabs at the bottom. When you go into the tabs, you can see the visits that have been made to this site, which are none, the log of interesting activities at this site, and there's been none in the most recent day, but certainly if we look at all, you'll see that there was data appended to this data set here. And I believe that's all we need to show in this video. Stay tuned for future videos where we'll talk about other user interfaces and tools.